welcome in to your weekend energy read. So I'm gonna do something a little bit different again. Today, when I woke up this morning, the downloads, the messages were crazy. Okay, it was like AIM in the 90s on a Friday night, like trying to plan all those things with your friends. All the messages coming in, ding, ding, ding. All the downloads. It was freaking Napster. Not necessarily bad. And when I say downloads and when I say like messages, I don't mean I'm hearing voices, right? I mean I'm getting information in a way that is completely packaged. Okay, I have a feeling the reason these things are called psychic downloads is they don't come all at once. Okay, it's not like you suddenly have the idea and everything about that idea is fully formed. But it's not something you have to think about. You know that that the whole package, the whole idea, the whole concept, the message itself is going to come to you eventually. But you don't have to think about it. It will just be in your knowing. And so a lot of that sort of synchronicity and information came to me this morning. The overall message for the weekend seemed to be regarding stability and seeking stability, and that overall individual stability, but as a collective, our stability, which is interesting going into a full moon, Scorpio full moon eclipse, which is very chaotic energy. And so I wrote down a bunch of things that came to me, but rather than just sit here and talk to you without showing my face and just ramble on about things that might not relate to you, what I think would be a better way to get these messages out, and the most pertinent ones to the people who might come across this video, is to work with the color oracle. Okay, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to shuffle, keep shuffling over and over again. I should get started on that, right? And see whatever cards pop out that may relate to some of the topics that I wrote down. See what comes out and comes back up from this morning's meditation as I just talk, okay? Or as I just shuffle. And that will sort of drive the conversation, whatever cards come out to represent the energies. But the first thing that I noticed when I woke up and went to the bathroom, turned on the light and looked in the mirror, and my hair, my hair somehow in the middle of the night got styled up, like coiffed up at the top. And it immediately made me think of two things. First, Jimmy Neutron. So there's definitely significance around the energies this weekend of nostalgia and memories, and reviewing old memories and connecting to nostalgia, connecting to those past energies. And I think it has to do with bringing those memories which don't serve us up to be released, right? I just want you to be able to see me shuffling here. Okay, space. Yes, so that is very, very relevant. Jimmy Neutron, right, being an old cartoon about a very advanced young genius of a boy, right? But Jimmy Neutron brought up the idea of, and not just Jimmy Neutron, but these 90s nostalgic messages that came in this morning, and the energy itself brought in the idea of looking back to look forward, and the idea of a cosmic review. So I'm not going to sit here and pretend like I know what that means, right? It's just something that we're all going through right now, is some sort of cosmic review. And that might also mean karmic review, right? In terms of divine energies, there might be, we might all be in karmic court, settling what needs to be settled, so that, excuse me, just taking a sip of my coffee, so that as the wheel turns, we can get clearer understanding and a clearer picture of what energies need to play out or will be playing out in the future. But with space also here in the idea of cosmic, I did want to bring up that in my meditation yesterday, so I don't usually do meditation specifically for a specific person, right? It's just for calming, finding stillness. If messages come in, that's wonderful. If not, it's a moment to connect in peace, right? But yesterday I felt extremely called to connect to the Akashic records, right? And I've only done that a couple times before. The first time I did it was beautiful. It felt like, and so I did it via this YouTube video that's a prayer, and they basically walk you through asking you what it feels like. And that was, I think, incredibly important, being somebody who's empathic and incredibly sensual, like in tune with the senses, sensitive, right? It felt very much like I was being held in an egg. And the reason I say an egg, and there's obviously some significance around an egg here, or the idea of transformation from the egg to all of the work that happens within the egg to the final whatever is being born out of the egg. But anyway, I only was up in the records or in that energy for about 10-15 minutes, but as soon as I became aware of it, it felt very much like I had been shrunken down, not in a bad way, and I could fit into an egg, like a chicken egg. And when you crack an egg, sometimes at the bottom of it there's this like film membrane, but it's like pillowy if you touch it, like there's air there, there's a softness. That's what it felt like I was being cradled in the first time yesterday, and that was beautiful. And I definitely felt a very direct and distinct connection to my guides and to the divine. But yesterday, when I did the same prayer and the same process, it felt like that egg was being spun like this. But not just in this plane, but in all planes. It was almost like a vortex. That's what it felt like in my body. It was incredibly intense. It brought up a lot of emotions, but not any like particular emotion. Like it wasn't like I was sad or frustrated or anything like that. It was just a swirl of really intense energy. So I feel like that's what's happening in the ethers and in general this weekend. So you might, and so this is coming back to the space card that came out yesterday in last night's message, with space coming out this way. It reminded me of space, the International Space Station, how they tether to it, and when they're out on a spacewalk, they float around. So the energy was floating around untethered. And if you're floating around untethered, whether that's you're not grounded in your body, you're not grounded in your desires, what you want going forward, you're not grounded in your truth, whatever it is, if you're untethered in any way in this swirling cosmic soup of energy, super intense, right? Almost like a riptide, you're gonna get washed away. So that's definitely a message that needs to come out. We need to do some grounding, and we need to balance into our heart chakras. Okay, and maybe this swirling is doing what I was talking about yesterday with Moldavite. The energy of Moldavite to me is like a vortex. It's like a centrifuge, and it spins so quickly and swirls all over to spin out any density that doesn't belong in your field, that doesn't belong in your life even, that doesn't belong in your mind, in your energy. So maybe this swirling scorpionic eclipse energy that we're feeling is meant to spin out or spin off anything that is untethered and not serving. Yeah, I like that. So with grit, I'm going to take this, and yeah, okay. I'm going to take both of those. Yeah. And then we also had strength yesterday. So yesterday I did give these a pretty good shuffle, but I'll keep shuffling in a sec. Yesterday this came out again with Leo energy, strength being a pillar. So being grounded in some sort of strength is going to be important in this fiery, swirling, cosmic soup. Oh, so one thing I wrote down here was that came in with this cosmic egg feeling was a memory of the first time I made egg drop soup. And so egg drop soup is pretty common from like Chinese food restaurants, and it's very easy to make. But what's significant here is the process of it. Like, obviously, it's called egg drop soup, but the process of making those feathery strands of egg in the soup is literally dropping the egg into the hot water. But first you spin it. First you create a vortex in the soup. Okay, and the steps go, and it's been like 15 years since I've made this soup, but I remember it very vividly. The steps go: you swirl it, then you pour in a slurry of cornstarch and broth, and that thickens. You continue swirling it so that thickening can spread throughout the whole soup, and then you drop the eggs in one by one, and the swirling that's happening, all that convection current, is what shreds and tears and feathers the egg to be this delightfully soft and delicious texture when you eat it. So there's significance for me personally around the idea of a slurry and thickening things. The energy is thickening. I've been seeing and I've been using cornstarch a lot more recently, so I don't know if there's some sort of significance to you. That might bring this reading closer to home for you. Maybe you've just bought cornstarch, or you just spilled a bag of cornstarch, or I don't know. But yeah, to me the takeaway though is thickening, and right after that came in quickening. So obviously there's a quickening of energy, right? That I think is going to take place after, and we're probably in it, but it's going to quicken even more after this spinning, after we get through this eclipse. But there's a thickening and a quickening of the energies. And so I started to speak on this, and then I got distracted by the egg drop soup. But I said, yes, green. This is important, because the first thing that I did this morning, and the first thing that I have been doing for the past 2 weeks, is starting my day with a green juice. There's something important about the work that we're doing in our sleep and how it's consuming resources that's bringing that can, not always, right? That can bring our minerals and our waters out of balance, because the work requires energy. And so cucumber juice, and cucumbers being mostly water, but yeah, cucumbers and green juices in particular are going to be extremely helpful to earth signs and fire signs at this time in rebalancing the salts and the minerals in their body, so that the waters are in balance and can flow, that the flows of electricity can flow in the body correctly. Yeah, which makes a lot of sense if you think about a tree and a tree's blood being its sap. It needs to have clear and strong flowing channels of sap from its roots all the way to its last highest leaf in order to stand strong and remain stable. And the whole message here was seek stability, right? So green juices might be something that can help you rebalance your heart chakra and get that stability. I'm not going to take that in reverse, because I really just took it for the green and the growth confirmation. Okay. If you've tried green juices in the past and they weren't your thing, I recommend try individual vegetables to juice before you go mixing or going for like the combo. Okay, so the most common combos that I'm seeing at like pre-packaged juices are like all kinds of things: kale and spinach and celery and cucumber and this and that, and that just might not be your fit your flavor profile, fit the mineral needs that your body is craving. So I would try, if you have access to a juicer, try juicing one vegetable at a time and seeing what it's like. For most people, cucumber juice is going to be perfect. Okay, if you like the taste of cucumbers, even better. But cucumber juice is gentle enough that when you take it in, as it goes about rebalancing you're always going to purge. If you're balancing something and it's out of balance, right, you're going to purge what's not meant to be there. So celery juice, you might have heard of Anthony Williams, the medical medium, promotes celery juice. I absolutely think celery juice is worth giving a try. But if you have any sort of IBS or sensitive digestive system, just be careful with that. Even he recommends starting with like a 50-50 cucumber and celery juice split. But my point is to say, what makes a green juice green is, well, obviously the chlorophyll, but is really more, the important part is the minerals and the balance of the minerals in the water or in the juice itself. So that's a really long way to say you might just want to try lemons. You might just want to try putting sliced cucumbers in your lemon water. Start small. But there's definitely a benefit there. Oh, and I wrote citrus. So maybe orange juice is a good way to go too, because I was talking about how this scorpionic energy is activating and clearing our sacral chakras, which is represented in the orange energy frequency. Okay. Another thing that I wrote regarding juice, and we'll move on from this, is the juice worth the squeeze? That's something that we're going to have to come up and think about this weekend. Okay. There's something about this energy that reminded me of absurdity and leaning into absurdity, being okay with absurdity, because out of absurdity there can be, really dark shit, right? People can concoct and synthesize some crazy stuff. That's why you need to be careful with what you're putting in, right? Your brain, what you're taking in terms of content and music and movies and stuff. But there is also absurdity that's just fun and ridiculous, and like you never would have thought of that, and it brings joy to you to put such a ridiculous scenario together in your head. That came to mind because when I saw myself in the mirror this morning and thought, look at that hair, it's so coiffed up, it's so high, it's so tall, I thought, higher the hair, closer to heaven, which is a phrase that I believe a lot of Southern people might say. Higher the hair, closer to God, right? And I'm picturing the PTA mom with her coiffed and hairsprayed high hair bun, or not bun, high hair bump. But I'm also picturing, so that triggered the idea of hairspray. Then I got Hairspray the musical, and then I got the blacker the berry, the sweeter the juice. So that whole progression happened within a millisecond. And that's what I mean by like a download or messages, is like I didn't have to think about those connections. They just were. They came together all packaged. And so for it to start at like my bed head literally just looking ridiculous, to it ending with the blacker the berry, the sweeter the juice, there's significance around Hairspray and Chicago. What? It's absurd. But it's not absurd in a dark or negative way. And so we take it with the good. Take the good with the bad is what I might be trying to get to. The song You're Beautiful by James Blunt might also be significant. Well, let's go ahead and get a couple more sort of cues to these channeled messages. I'm hesitant to say this because there is chaotic energy going on, and I'm aware of the friends who might be watching this message. I'll put it to you that way. And as I said that, there was a nice little explosion of cards everywhere. Reflection. Lack of movement. Okay. But what I was about to say is CERN came out. Specifically, when thinking about the chaotic energies that are present, which is interesting. CERN. And energies in reverse as I'm talking about this. Interesting. CERN. Absurdity, CERN. I believe that was also the train of thought. Something has stopped because of a lack of reflection, which is likely related to this untethered feeling, since it all happened over here. Something has stopped. Okay, so this isn't directly related, but what I'm being told to sort of tie this into is something has stopped or is slowed down. And one of the downloads that came in was around nail polish. There's significance around nail polish, and specifically for males. So if you're a man or a masculine energy, there's significance around nail polish. Self-reflection, not doing self-reflection. But the nail polish itself, the significance around that is the idea of putting your best foot forward, putting your best hands forward, right? Manicured nails. And it triggered a story to me, or the reflection for me, of the fact that once COVID started, I used to bite my nails. And look, they're actually pretty long. I should cut them. But I used to bite my nails constantly for almost 26 years, something like that. Probably longer. I'm not going to actually tell you my real age. But long story short, when COVID struck and everybody was super into hand washing, obviously I became much more aware of what I was doing with my hands and when I was putting my hands around my face and in my mouth. And COVID was the trigger, the impetus. Is that the right word? COVID was the trigger, the motivation for me to stop biting my nails. So maybe there's somebody who's biting their nails and they need to stop biting their nails. That's a message. But the point is something has stopped. You need to, or you have chosen to stop doing something, and you have not reflected on how that has impacted the other energies around you, or how that has impacted your life. I'm not going to put a good or a bad on this. It's just a statement. Okay? So something you stopped doing, talking to somebody, eating something, consuming something in terms of like media or medicine, you stopped doing that, but you have yet to reflect on both the good and the bad ways, is what I'm getting, that this has impacted your life. So that might be something that is coming to the forefront to this weekend. Sorry. And that goes nicely with the idea of banishment and replenishment. Okay, banishment and replenishment. So if you got rid of something, what did you refill it with? So yesterday, before I started my message, I felt very called to burn myrrh resin and cedar wood. Okay, and with the intention of banishing negative energies and, giving extra protection. In reflection, this is reflection. In reflection, I had myself covered because immediately after burning that incense, I filled the space with Reiki white light and universal love. Okay, I called in the Holy Spirit. There's an importance here around making sure that when you get rid of something, or you stop doing something, or you banish something, you replace it with something positive, and you don't allow there to be a vacuum or an empty space. A vacuum or an empty space to come in and be filled with things that don't serve you after you got rid of something that doesn't serve you. Okay, that's very clear. So this morning I burned myrrh, and then immediately after it I burned copal or copal. Okay, and so myrrh for banishing and removing those negative energies, saying you cannot be in this space. This is a sacred space. Get the fuck out. And Kopal, or Kopal, I don't know how you really, where the emphasis is there, but with Kopal, it's just an uplifting, beautifully positive vibration. And so that's what then came in and filled the space. And with burning resin incense, especially Kopal, it's pretty thick. The smoke gets pretty thick. But what you'll notice is when that smoke dissipates, there's still a residual fragrance, but the air is clearer. I know that makes no sense because we just put particles, right, in smoke into the air. But as soon as those particles fall, they also take with it whatever dense and negative energies were swirling around, and there's clarity. This is the way that I picture it, is in the ethers there is a constantly undulating network of nodes, of little energy centers, even in space, and they can take on negative or positive energies that are floating around us. And so smoke, in particular resin smoke, and I did write this down to sort of go into, resin smoke comes in and literally puts a blanket over everything, almost like this, like passing over it, wiping it clean, and pushing anything that's dense back to Earth, back to the center of the planet to be transmuted and then recycled. Now, the reason that that's significant, or resin incenses are significant to me, is I feel like they have helped me immensely with recognizing the importance of creating a sacred space before you enter into any sort of spiritual work, but also recognizing what the process of burning this resin and why it's sacred, what it does besides just create protection and cleansing and clearing negativity, like what's actually happening there at a physical level when we think about it. And I'm going to try and speak a little quicker because I'm noticing that these are getting long. What's really happening there is we're taking what the tree uses to heal itself. Resin is a substance, well, I'm not going to speak for all resins, but most resin incenses that we burn is a substance that comes from the tree or from the bush or from the plant as it's trying to heal a scab or it's trying to heal a wound. So if, two branches were rubbing together and the wind over and over again created an open wound, sap would drip out and resins would come in to sort of form a scab over wherever that rubbing is. And that is what is collected and burned. And that's why it is sacred, because it is a healing component to the tree. And so with most spiritual people, they try to, if they have an awareness to this, they try to use the resins in a sacred and mindful way, okay? But the point is to say that when we put this resin on a coal and it starts to burn, we are watching a literal transformation happen, and we are allowing the healing energy that the tree spent all of this time producing. Okay, so go back, we're going to go deep on the energies, right, that are used here. The tree is constantly growing, taking in sunshine, taking in water, taking in positive energies from other trees and beings around it. And when it gets injured and it starts to heal itself, it's taking in all of those components and putting out this pure, well, maybe not pure, but this substance to heal itself. We then take that, we put it on a coal, and as it burns, it goes from being a solid to being a gas. We're going to be like super high level, right? It is combusted there is a chemical combustion or a physical combustion that takes place where it changes form. And what's important is it's not just changing form and like, yeah, that's cool. What's important is we are then breathing in those healing energies in a different form. And while the form, or while the transformation that this resin undergoes looks like destruction, right? It's going from a solid and there's only ash left after. It looks like it's destruction, but it's actually to the benefit of the environment around it, if that makes sense. Obviously, smoke is not to the benefit of the environment around it, but when we talk about energy, smoke is really good for cleansing and renewing and refreshing and banishing things that don't belong. Okay? So there's significance around the transformation that the resin goes through when it's burned and how that benefits you and the sacredness of that whole process. So this is a very long-winded way to say you might want to burn, or you might want to get into burning some resin incense to create that sacred space and to connect further with these ideas. That was really long-winded, but I think there were a couple of different, messages that this was tied to, so it was important. What I have right underneath that is just 3 crystals that stuck out. I have crystals literally all over my apartment, and these were the 3 that intuitively seemed like they would be helpful in these energies, and that is labradorite, blue kyanite, and obsidian. I don't have a piece of obsidian handy, but those 3 came to mind. And what I was gonna, I don't know how long this is, and I don't want it to be too long, so what I was gonna do is actually read, a little bit more into each of those energies and how they can support, but I think that might be for a different video, because I've already done quite a few videos on crystal energies and their support, and I'm sure labradorite, kyanite, and obsidian will come up in future videos. But I'm just looking at my notes because I don't want to leave anything out. I did burn a little bit of incense on a stick earlier this morning as well, from that same company, Mother's Incense, and I don't know why, but there may be some significance around the name stuck out to me. It was Lavanaya. Lava, Hawaii, Hawaiian Islands might be something to watch. So that's 3 geographic locations that popped out that might be specific. And the reason why I'm bringing this up is I keep getting the idea of a storm. I don't want to prophesize negative things or put anybody into worry, but Texas, Chicago, and what was the last place I just said? Texas, Chicago, and what was the last thing I just said? Storm warning for those places. I'll just put it to you that way. Lavanaya, Hawaii, Texas, Chicago, and Hawaii. Significant storms or some sort of event that will impact stability potentially this weekend. So just an eye out, okay? I'm not trying to stoke any fear. There's the idea of something being overfilled, too full, and it will overflow, which sort of fits in nicely to the idea of if it doesn't belong, it will be spun out. If it is untethered in this space, it will be stopped, removed. Then we can reflect and see what needs to refill that space, if anything, or if we just need to hold space to allow something to be attracted to us to come in. Okay, so we're still on space here. The last message that I got, which was a little bit for me personally, was a little bit like, what the fuck? I was making toast, and while I was making toast, I got, don't feel bad for eating bread. Don't feel bad for eating carbs. That's part of a larger sort of programming meant to shame us on what we consume to give nutrition to our body. So everybody in the world doesn't have access to the same foods, especially what I'm getting to is the nutrient density of those foods. So it's very popular in America right now to shame certain diets, certain ways of eating, whether that be eating meat or not eating meat, eating gluten or not eating gluten. And so that is all part of a larger trope around how we take care of ourselves and putting negative thoughts in our head around what our ancestors for generations have consumed to nourish themselves, and sort of cause a dissonance there. That's a tough message, and I don't want to go any deeper on that, but just be aware of what you're consuming in terms of social media, in terms of advice and information. Question the source, right? Why would they say this? Is it really true? If it's quote unquote research that's happened in the last 10 years, who's funding it and why? And do your own investigation and form your own conclusions, looking at cultures where longevity is present. What kind of foods do they eat? What is their lifestyle? And try to emulate those things, because it's in those cultures where those norms have been passed down that there are people who will absolutely turn up and say this is bullshit to the norms that are trying to be imposed on us, and say this has worked for us for hundreds of years. Here's why. That's the important part. So I'm not a Luddite. I'm not saying that there aren't advancements in food science and food technology and nutrition that are helpful, in medicine that are helpful, in technology that are helpful to human health. But I think as a whole, we're going in the not right direction. We're relying too much on technology and our logical brain, and not on our intuitive knowing, on our ancestral knowing, on our inner knowing of listening to our body and what it may need. Okay, your body might need that bread. But anyway, that was a very long tangent to say about eating. Bless what you're eating no matter what it is. Okay? Even if it's the cookie, you shouldn't be eating it. Don't allow yourself to put that in your mouth with the thought that, I shouldn't be eating this. No, it is nutrition. You are feeding yourself. Whether you are overdoing it in sugar or overdoing it in salt is irrelevant as soon as you take that energy within you. What's important is how you direct that energy within your body. And if upon entry you're directing it into an energy of, it shouldn't be here, it's going to cause illness, it's not going to serve me, then it will do exactly that in your body. But if you take that sugar, you take that cookie, right? I'm a cookie guy. If you take that cookie in with the same love and appreciation for its existence, for its energy that it will provide to you, its sustenance, that you would a green juice, okay, the green juice is good for you. You know the benefits that the green juice will have. But if you impart those same ideas and energies and intentions when you eat the cookie, you'll be better for it than if you shamed yourself or put negative energies onto that cookie and then ate it. I know this is very up in the head, but it's important because it matters. Why do you think so many cultures pray before they eat? Bless the food they eat. Because there's a resonance then encoded in that food that they consume and becomes part of them. So if they're praying for peace, or they're praying in the energy of gratitude for this meal, that frequency, and this is another thing that I wrote down, so perfect sort of segue, that frequency gets encoded into the water, because water has a memory, that frequency gets encoded into the water, into the food. I know you've probably seen a cartoon or an illustration of somebody doing something with their psychic head, or sending a message, or projecting something, or even just having a thought where they had like that squinty face on, and you can visualize the idea of a thought form being sent out. That's real. That's real energy that you're putting out. So when you pray over your food or you bless your food, that is having a real impact at an energetic level on whatever that is. Whether it's dead, bleached, refined flour, or whether it is a freshly harvested ear of corn, full of life and nutrients. Okay? So I said frequency is important because the second to last thing that came in, and I really hope this isn't a super long message, and I hope it finds who it needs to find, is a tip for you guys regarding cold showers that I discovered. So you know how Andrew Huberman, I'm going to mess that up, and a lot of people talk about Wim Hof and the idea of taking cold showers, or at least ending your shower with cold water. I do that because I am still not up to the level, and I don't have a bath, where I can do an ice bath or, freezing cold showers for any sort of extended period. But what came in is it is actually very important to get cold water on the body, and more importantly, cold water on your face, around your cheeks and your ears. Not in, but around. Splashing cold water there for some reason. Well, the reason is it and this is how this goes back to frequency. What I got was a very, very vivid picture of an oscilloscope. So an oscilloscope is an engineering tool usually that has like a little screen on it, and it's basically a frequency generator, frequency measuring device, I believe. I hope I have that right. But on the screen, what I'm picturing is this little old screen that has a line and then, a green sort of sine wave going through it, so we can see what the frequency is when the wave crests, and then it drops down, and then it crests again, and then it drops down. The frequency is the space between the highs, or the space even between the lows. But long story short, this frequency is a real thing. We hold a frequency. We are constantly shifting in and out of different frequencies. But in general, in order to exist here and incarnate here, we have to have some sort of background spine of a frequency that we are at. Okay? It might shift, it might change as we grow, right? But that homeostasis, stasis being balance, human balance, right? Our body is in balance, in peace. That homeostasis that we're at, that whatever that home frequency is, let's just say it's 27. I just made that up. But let's just say the frequency is 27. When we're sad, the frequency might be 18. When we're really depressed, and I'm talking now about how, now I'm not using the right words, but how quickly that energy comes across. When we're really sad, the frequency might be 10, 15. When we're excited and we're in good health and we're just revving to go, we're inspired, spirit is within us. Okay, you might be 30, and 30 might be your next level. When you level up spiritually, you level up energetically. 30 might be your next homeostasis. You are always vibing at that high frequency of 30. What a cold shower does is, if you're vibing at 30, but it's not in a good way, you're toiling through thoughts negatively, you can't sleep, okay? You have this chaotic energy around you. What a cold shower does is, in this line constantly being drawn, it stops it. It shocks it so that it can go back to 27. And so if you had a line that you could watch, that was being drawn out, and you could historically look back at it like a couple hours ago, what your frequency was doing, whether it was up or down. When you take a cold shower, when you give that cold water splash to your face, it forms an energetic reset, an energetic and a spiritual reset. Or not spiritual, psychic reset. I don't know why. That's just what came in. There are other people who have said similar things around why this is effective to you, but I had to deliver the message of a sine wave and the idea of there being a stopping to this current frequency and a starting of something new. So this might be, this message in particular might be for somebody who is in a depressed state of mind, somebody who is totally in their head and super anxious, or somebody who can't get out of bed, okay? Or somebody who is literally just constantly pacing back and forth because they don't know how to use the energy or the thoughts that are in their head, the chaos that's in their environment. Try a cold shower. So that wasn't the tip. The tip is, during the cold shower, here's what I noticed really helps. So Andrew Huberman talks about the idea that when you go into the cold shower knowing it's for your own good, you actually can endure more of it, and it's less of a, like, oh, this sucks. When you know that you will receive benefits from doing a certain thing, it makes that certain thing even better for you, but it makes it easier to endure. It increases your endurance and your tolerance for it. So what I've started to do is, as soon as I end my shower and I go for that last couple minutes, I get excited and think, endorphins, 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 like in that head, or in that voice in my head, endorphins, like hype myself up, because I know what's coming is a release of, and I can't remember the other chemicals, the other brain chemicals, but the happy brain chemicals. That's what happens, a rebalancing and a restoration of all of those chemicals. And endorphins is what I was screaming this morning, like, yeah, endorphins. But you could also just think, this is really good for me. This is going to be amazing. Even though you know it's going to shock you and it's going to suck for the first couple seconds. The mindset going into it makes a huge difference. So that's also significant and might be a helpful tip for someone who's just starting to do their cold shower. And I'm going to be totally honest with you. I don't stay in there for any sort of long amount of time. And I had just finished taking a very warm shower. It's literally just to, because it's also good for your skin. It's to seal, to do that shock, to allow you to release whatever needed to be released in the shower, and to make sure it is fully off of you, but also to seal in and close the pores of your skin so that you're not just like open. But yeah, you don't have to go for any long extended period of time. A minute or two is enough. For me personally, that has been extremely helpful in restoring my energy levels, in reducing my stress, in looking forward to a release of endorphins and happy brain chemicals. So I went on this whole thing about food, and then I completely missed the point that I was trying to make. So the last message that came in was right before I started to eat my toast. And on my toast, I had it with cream cheese and jelly, and I had that conversation in my head with, you shouldn't be having that much jelly. And that's when the download came in with, no, that jelly is good for you right now, okay? So bless it and enjoy it. Take it in and understand how it will nourish you, and take it in under that, guys. Not, oh, I shouldn't be having jelly right now. No, you have jelly right now because you wanted jelly, right? But it's not about the jelly. It was more about the message that came in right before I was about to take a bite, which is, your messages will be clearer on an empty stomach. And I was freaking hungry. Like, I already had a green juice, and I had already had water and all that stuff. Like, I was ready to eat. That's why I made the toast. But my spirit team is funny because they said it in a mocking way, but I knew that they were just joking. Like, it was a hint to me and to somebody who's listening to this message that, yeah, you're right in thinking that you get your clearest messages, you get your clearest downloads, you have your less impedance in the connection with the divine when you have nothing in your stomach. I don't know why. Or when you only have like electrical liquids, like water, salt water, green juices, citrus, orange juices. When you've consumed those, that's enough to power the connection, but also keep it running clean. So there's a significance around fasting. Okay? Fasting and what that will do for your mental faculties, for your spiritual connection in some way. So I got through almost everything on my channel list except for on the front page, except for High School Musical. We're all in this together. So this is harkening back to the idea of nostalgia, the nostalgic energy that's being released. High School Musical has come up at least 3 times this week for me. I freaking loved it. I was like the only guy who was into it. I actually hosted a party for it when I was in high school. Oh my god, that's ridiculous. But long story short, we're all in this together relates to the idea of this cosmic egg and this swirlingness that's happening. Okay, we all might be in our own individual eggs, but we're all being scrambled together in terms of the energies, and that's why it's important to have the stability. Let me just grab 1 or 2 last cards to give context. Passion. Okay. Yeah. I can go on just passion alone, but let's... Ooh. Stop. Okay, so this is telling me no more cards. No more cards. Something death. Something with death and passion. We'll figure this out in a second. But with passion, how I'm going to relate that, okay, don't be sad. It's not an actual death. And out of death comes renewal, right? So don't be too worried about that. But with passion, what this is triggering here is there might be so with this crazy energy, out of it will be a shift, right, into a new energy. And you might be starting to feel that now. You might be starting to feel what you truly are here to do, what your true passions are, and how you can help to serve. And what's important with that is this reminded me of, what card was it? Not this card, but what this is hearkening back to is yesterday's reading. Animal spirit card came out, a parrot, and the advice was watch your words. With passion, yes, of course, always watch your words. But what came in was the idea that whoever's listening to this, you might be the person in your friend group, in your family, in your work group, whatever you want to call it, the people you associate with most. You might be the one who thinks differently, okay? And what you might be saying and what you might be thinking, the way you might be connecting things, your advice for people, how you choose to operate your life might be very different, or is likely very different than the people around you. Even if it's not obvious, just the way that you think about things and form connections in your head. There's an importance around that uniqueness, and there's an importance around the passion in which you express that different viewpoint. Because you might not be aware that the way that you think is not obvious to other people, is uncommon, the connections that you make in your head and the reasons behind you doing things feel so obvious to you, feel so logical, like duh, this is why. The advice is just to be a little bit careful with the delivery and the tone in which you are explaining things, or explaining why you chose to do something, or just explaining anything. okay? Your motivations or, your perspective. Just watch your words, because you just might not be aware of just how high of a perspective that you have. And when you are trying to deliver a message passionately, or you're trying to deliver your point of view, your perspective passionately, and you assume that somebody is already at your level, you might accidentally insult them because they have to do some work to understand and get up to your level, to raise up to your vibration. So don't assume that everybody that is within your group or that you're interacting with, one, has the same passion as you and is capable of operating at the same frequency as you. But two, don't assume that they understand where you're coming from immediately. Take the time to be very clear when expressing yourself, especially around something passionate, so that everybody can have that understanding and not feel excluded in any way because of a tone or, the delivery of it. The last thing with death kind of just comes back to the idea, or is just sort of a reminder to say, you stop doing something, or maybe you need to stop doing something. So that this new energy can come in. The clouds, the swirling chaos will clear. The mystery, this is the moon, right? The mystery will be revealed. So what I'm going to do, and that's funny, what I was hoping to do was get 2 different cards just to close out from the animal spirit, because I think that there's something relevant there. There's some, I'm sorry, not from the animal spirit, from the sacred forest and from the woodland wardens is what I had set out to do at the beginning of this. And the reason why is I feel like there is a significance for somebody around getting out into nature, specifically in the woods or in the forest, to help ground out some of these chaotic energies, okay? Some of this swirlingness, to seek that stability, seek it from the earth spirit, seek it from being in nature, walking barefoot, okay? And set out to do is the last trigger of the last thing that I have written here, which is make sure that whatever you are doing this weekend, whatever you do set out to do this weekend, you don't allow distractions to come in and kill that. You don't allow distractions to put whatever you set out to do to bed. And I know that's a little bit dark, but I'm trying to tie it back in. The reason I say that is I got very distracted yesterday by something good. Okay? It was a family member's birthday, and I wrote out a text message to them, happy birthday. And I was like, ooh, I'm going to find an adorable picture of a puppy to send with it. And so I go and search for an adorable photo of a puppy, and went and searched for 1,000 other things after that, and never did what I set out to do, which was send a happy picture to a family member wishing them happy birthday. So I had to do that this morning. So don't allow, and so happy birthday to you, family member, if you're listening to this. But don't allow the details to distract you from what you're setting out to do, especially if it's something with good intention, because with this chaotic energy right now, I do feel like there are energies that are purposefully trying to distract and weigh you down, trying to knock you off of the path of passion, trying to make you give it up in confusion prematurely, okay? The centrifuge of this craziness of the eclipse energy in the vacuum of space will spin out anything that is not serving you. don't allow yourself to prematurely put something to bed or get distracted and have an ending. Focus and find that stability to allow you to focus. Okay? God, this message is going to be so long. Sorry. But it's for the whole weekend, so we'll just say it that way. And speaking of which, I wasn't sure how many cards I was going to grab, but since it's for the weekend and there's 2 days in the weekend, I know it's Friday, that's okay. Let's ask for 2 cards from each of these woodland, forest, nature-y animal decks. Just some guidance or some additional advice. This is more additional color. I don't think we need additional color. I think it's pretty clear what we're in for, but maybe there's a specific situation where this might apply, or a specific situation where you need to get grounded and stable. Okay, wow. I'm not going to take this one. But that's good. It's overcoming obstacles. So maybe that, because it was it came flipped, maybe that's hidden to you, that you will be overcoming obstacles. So strength, 8 energy, Leo energy. You need to have strength during this time because things are going to be a little crazy, right? So you might be seeing elks, you might be seeing animals with antlers, and if the ash tree is significant to you in some way, then take that for sure. But the overall message or reminder here is have strength during these chaotic energies. Because remember, with this sine wave, it allow that chaos to just sort of pass through it. You will still continue to have this peace or this homeostasis if that's what you choose, right? And then it's very clear, since this came out yesterday as well, but then just with the energies in general, that a metamorphosis is taking place. Scorpio moon is about transforming, right? Using your inner power, sacral energy to transform into whatever you're passionate about, into what you feel, right? Into an expression of your feelings, right? Or just into a higher form, from a tadpole to a frog. So frogs and the lotus again, notice every day this week the lotuses come up. So there's significance obviously around this period. And I think there's going to be some sort of collective awakening. With lotus coming out that many times, that many lotus flowers all over the place the whole week, metamorphosis being very clear, the lotus card itself being enlightenment when I pulled it from the Botanical Inspirations deck on Monday. Collective awakening and transformation seems to be afoot. So that's nice, very nice, thank you. And finally, I haven't used this deck in a while. I'm going to give it a good shuffle before we get any additional advice or color. You know, I wasn't going to do this, but I want words. I want an affirmation. So what we'll do in addition to whatever comes out in these cards is just grab one soul purpose card. One soul purpose lesson card with some additional confirmation, affirmations, energies that we can use. Oh, okay. Okay. So this weekend you might be having to do or visiting family, having something to do with family, wolf spirit. And this weekend, growth. Okay, so we have growth here twice. Growth out of transformation, it's 44, it's an 8. But 44 is also significant. It's been coming out a lot. And then, wow, oh my God, I just said this. Oh, okay. It's confirmation of what's happening. And forest temple. Holy crap. Okay. So I said, somebody here needs to get into nature to stabilize themselves. Somebody has to go into the forest temple to stabilize themselves and receive their enlightenment, which I literally just said about the lotus flower being enlightenment. And it's number 19, which also came out yesterday as, what was that? It is right here. I can't remember. I want to say it was flamingo spirit. But doesn't matter. The point is enlightenment is due for you this weekend regarding some matter. It will trigger beautiful growth. I want to say it's spiritual and psychic growth. Okay? It might be physical though too. It might become manifest in the 3D here. Mushrooms might be significant to you. When you go for your enlightenment hike in the forest, keep an eye out for mushrooms or fungi. Talk to the fungi. What? Okay. Connect with the fungi. With the fungi kingdom. That's a beautiful message. So you might be untethered. You might have gotten rid of something. Just to review, okay? The energies for this weekend. And then we'll get our last card. Just to recap, you might be feeling this crazy Scorpio full moon eclipse energy. You might be feeling swirling around, untethered, chaotic. You might have just recently stopped doing something and you're in a period of reflection, or stop dealing with someone even. You're in a period of reflection, or you need to do additional reflection to see what are you going to fill that space with that you created. Okay? So that you have something to tether onto and you're not floating aimlessly. Green juices, being in nature, will help to balance your energies. Finding stability is the key message here. The reason why you want to find stability is so that you can stop or put to bed anything that's getting in the way of you expressing your passion. When you do that, you'll have extreme growth and maybe even reach enlightenment regarding some issue. A complete metamorphosis where strength is required. So find your strength, or rely on the strength that the earth, that forest energy can give you. Okay? Beautiful message. Yes, very nice. Okay. So I said last card is your soul purpose. Let's get a beautiful, I'm getting chills for some reason. Let's get a beautiful confirmation and affirmation of the work that's going to be done this weekend by somebody listening to this message. Kudos and confirmations, and congratulations to you for doing the work. So family did come out at the bottom of this deck with wolf. You might be seeing wolves. You might be hearing wolves. But this weekend, whatever transformation or growth is occurring might have to do with your relationships and a significant relationship in your life. And this particular image, though it might be difficult to isolate with your eyes, is a bunch of interconnected circles. I'm going to try and draw a circle around the one. And like a Venn diagram, these are all interconnected, related circles in the way that we are all interconnected and related energies. So your affirmation this weekend, or the intention that you can put forth while going through these energies, is I am attracted to people, to those people who serve my higher good. Okay? You might have stopped dealing with the person. And so you need to reflect on the type of people that you want to attract for your higher good. And so I just got right at the end, I feel like it's important to mention that this actually Yes, it requires inner work. It requires reflection, right? But so much of this stress, confusion, suffering can be released from you if you choose to release it. And I know that sounds ridiculous, but if you choose not to feel that way, or you choose not to think that way, or hang out with those people, that is a choice that you can make. Not only that, but you can release any of the suffering that you have to the universe, to your higher power. If you believe in a certain God or a certain deity, right? You can ask for assistance. That's a relationship you have with that higher power, right? You can ask for assistance to release you from a relationship that's not serving you, or release you from a thought pattern or an energy that's not serving you, that's part of your transformation. It's not work that you have to do all on your own, is the key message I'm getting here. That's why you're attracted to people who serve your higher good, because your higher good is not alone. It involves other people, right? So I hope you enjoy this message. I hope you got something useful from it. If you did, please remember to go ahead and give a like. If you're not already following, please go ahead and follow me. Feel free to share this message with somebody you think it might be helpful to. And I almost forgot right at the end, even though it doesn't matter, this is definitely a collective energy. Let's just get one or two astrological signs that this could be applicable to. So we have Libra with the air energy. Okay, and we have... So I messed this up yesterday, but I believe... Who is this? What sign is this? This is Aquarius. Yeah? There's a lady with a pail of water. So if I misstated that, I'm sorry if that's not Aquarius. Because I definitely said yesterday that this was Capricorn when it's really Sagittarius. Okay, so it's not the symbols that I'm used to, so just bear with me there. But the two that came out was this one, which I believe is Aquarius, and where are you? This one, which is definitely Libra. Okay? I hope you have a wonderful rest of your Friday, and I hope you wake up on Saturday feeling incredibly stable and grounded, ready to go have your beautiful forest adventure hike, receiving wonderful enlightenment and stable energies as you transform into the highest form of yourself you are meant to be. Have a wonderful weekend. Take care.